There are countless productivity books out there. I know, I've written one myself. It was a New York Times bestseller. It was translated into 28 different languages, and I know just how overwhelming it can be to find a productivity book actually worth your time. Hi, I'm Ryder Carroll, author of the Bullet Journal Method, and in this video, I will share my top 7 productivity ideas that I learned from books. Some of these ideas are from productivity books, but some aren't. Some of the best productivity concepts that I've gotten come from some pretty unexpected places. So if that sounds interesting, let's dive in. Let's start off with a classic, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Now, I do have some questions about the concept of good habits in general. If that's something that's interesting to you, you can watch this video here. But Mr. Clear brilliantly reframes productivity in terms of identity. The key idea, and I quote, "You don't read to read. You read to become a reader. You don't run to go for a run, you run to become a runner. Your actions define your identity over time. The behaviors you consistently engage in shape who you become." Productivity is often measured in what you do. No matter what you accomplish, though, much of what you do will be forgotten, or we will feel meaningless not that long after accomplishing it. What I believe to be far better measure of productivity is who you become in the process of what you do. Each action then becomes a vote for who you want to become. Next, we have another modern classic, 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, which, in my opinion, is one of the best productivity books ever written because it challenges the pervasive hustle and grind culture in a really clever and mindful way. My biggest takeaway is distracting myself with what Burkeman calls clearing the decks. Pseudo-productivity can be the greatest obstacle in actually getting meaningful work done. I can spend hours answering emails, making phone calls, and handling small tasks so that I can finally work on what author Cal Newport calls deep work. The problem, clearing the decks never ends. You can spend your entire life getting ready to get things done. To quote Burkeman, "Attention, on the other hand, just is life. Your experience of being alive consists of nothing other than the sum of everything to which you pay attention. At the end of your life, looking back, whatever compelled your attention from moment to moment is simply what your life will have been." Bergman reminds us that life is happening now, not once that everything is perfectly organized. It's liberating because in my experience, the time is never perfect. So if you find yourself constantly getting ready and preparing to do the real work, stop. See if you can collapse the time between when you want to do something and actually doing it. Do the thing that actually matters. In the productivity world is a famous quote by Peter Drucker, "That which gets measured gets managed." And it's true. If you're not measuring what you're doing, then how can you possibly know if you're making any progress? The problem, especially for me, is that I was usually measuring in the wrong direction. Let me explain. Executive coach Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy explore this problem in their book, The Gap and the Gain. See, many measure progress against the gap, what we haven't achieved yet. Our goals show us how many subscribers, deals, money we don't have yet. We measure how far we are from the finish line. Of course, by the time we learn more about what we do, we indefinitely keep moving that finish line further and further out. More subscribers, more deals, more money, more whatever. Psychologically, this creates the context where we're always falling short, especially when we're comparing ourselves to others. I lived in the gap for longer than I care to admit, and it's simply demoralizing, depressing, and most of all, just completely unproductive. Instead, they talk about measuring the gain, how far you've come. Rather than measuring yourself against the finish line, measure from the starting line. Acknowledging the progress that you've made from the beginning is a far more productive way of going through life in general. Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy wrote another book that I really like with a powerful core idea. 10x is better than 2x. It's a business book more than a productivity book, but the core idea can make you exceptionally productive. At first, I was skeptical because the title reads like some kind of productivity snake oil. I've been in the business longer than many in my field, and the idea of somehow 10xing my revenue seems like a real stretch. But the more I read, the more I realized that this is more of a mental model than anything else. The real core idea here is radical focus. I've often tried to be more productive by simply doing more of the same. More hours, more projects, more content, but there's a real limit there. You can at best double your results. If you want a massive improvement like 10x, you have to rethink your entire approach. For example, I had a really demanding full-time job for many years while growing this channel and writing bullet journal articles. This also meant I was creatively at my limit. When I got my book deal, I had to figure out how to essentially 10x my creative output. The only way I could do that was by saying no to everything else, including my videos, my articles, and even my entire career as a digital product designer. I basically had to say no to everything else in order to fully commit to this one thing. I didn't know about 10x back then, and I wish I had, because this book gives structure to a way of thinking and doing that can be profoundly productive, especially if you have big ambitions or are overwhelmed by choices. Just think about it. What would you have to do to make 10 times more of something that you want? Or more importantly, what would you have to stop doing? 10x is a clarifying framework that can help cut through overwhelm and focus on what works and what truly matters. Now, this one might seem a little bit out of left field, but hear me out. Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. One of the biggest productivity challenges isn't time management, it's people management. If your team or even just you can't communicate clearly and effectively, little gets done. This is especially true when things go wrong or there's disagreement with coworkers or clients or customers, which happens inevitably as part of anybody's business. In a world where we're becoming more and more reactive and somehow more scared to express ourselves at the same time, this book gives a very clear and powerful framework for expressing our needs, handling conflict, and improving communication skills. And that's absolutely invaluable for any productive effort. Next is Bird by Bird by author Anne Lamott. Now, this is a book on writing, which I think is also a skill that everyone should prioritize, because writing teaches you how to think, but that's a topic for a different video. The core idea of this book as it pertains to productivity to this video is, as she puts it, the shitty first draft. Be it an article, an essay, an email, a report, a video, creation is a process. When we begin, it's unlikely that we'll have a clear picture of what we're making while we're trying to simply connect the dots. I've wasted countless hours trying to get things perfect before even knowing what I was making. Now I use this approach as my secret productivity weapon. I try to get to the end of whatever I'm writing as fast as I can so I have material to work with. Even when I've scrapped most of my first draft, having it in place has drastically sped up my process. Why? Because I can look at it and quickly take out what I don't like and refine what I do. There's something there to work with very quickly. This approach has also helped me better navigate my perfectionism, and this isn't some kind of humble brag. Perfectionism can be crippling at times. I can't tell you how many projects never saw the light of day because some detail wasn't right. I spent hours, if not days of my life fiddling with some detail that no one would ever care about. So this concept of the shitty first draft becomes a practice in letting go over and over and over again, so you're not burdened by things that don't matter and you can really focus on what does. This next one is one of the most formative books I've ever read, and I will probably bring it up in most book lists that I create. If that's something you'd like me to do, let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't read it, do yourself a favor. It's written by Jewish-Austrian psychologist Viktor Frankl about his imprisonment in a concentration camp during World War II. There's a lot of wisdom here, but as it pertains to productivity, it's this. The most important thing to optimize for is meaning. I bring this book up here as I think it ties together all of the other books that I've mentioned. How? Because no matter how hard you work, how much you get done, how optimize everything else, it simply won't matter if it doesn't feel meaningful. Now, to be clear, this is not necessarily about doing grand things like saving lives or curing diseases. If that's what excites you, great. If not, that's also perfectly fine. It's about being honest with yourself about what lights you up here and now. Figuring out what feels meaningful may be the most productive thing one can do, because life can be really challenging. Even if you're doing something that you love, things go wrong, things don't work out, things get boring, things get stressful, people will disappoint you, you will disappoint people. All of this is unavoidable no matter what we do. I don't know about you, but I'd rather be challenged within the context of something I care about than within a context that I don't. As Nietzsche put it, he who has a why can endure anyhow. Or as Mark Manson puts it, choose your hard. I have two more bonus books for you. The first one is Tiny Experiments by Anne-Laure LeCunff. It's one of the best productivity books I've ever read, and I had the pleasure of interviewing her about it. You can check that video out here. It's absolutely packed with great ideas and the science to back them up. In short, this book is about how you can turn your life into a laboratory. Rather than setting goals, you create tiny experiments based on what you're most curious about. It's forgiving, playful, and also powerful productivity model, and I couldn't recommend it more. We'll link it down below. Last but not least, if you like the way I think, you may want to consider picking up my book, The Bullet Journal Method. Track the past, order the present, and design your future. It's a synthesis of all the best tools, philosophies, and techniques I've learned or developed over decades to help me to be more mindfully productive and write a better life. I'm curious, what are the best productivity books you've ever read? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to experience more deep dives into being mindfully productive, make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for taking the time, and I'll see you in the next one.